Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Down the hall and to the left.
Thanks.
Box office phenomenon, Golden Globe nominee before high school, the kid who turned a $18 million holiday movie into a $500 million juggernaut. The face of 2 global hits before age 12. A Saturday Night Live host at 11. The highest paid child actor of his era. A pop culture imprint so deep that one line,
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal,
can still light up an arena. And decades later, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, framed by applause, family, and a camera wall that never really went away. That's Macaulay Culkin. Not just famous, but a holiday habit. A face that turned into a franchise.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
Home Alone is the engine, the launch pad that turned a kid into the face of Christmas. It landed at the exact moment families were hunting for a holiday movie. And it broke the mold not mistletoe and melodrama, but booby traps and belly laughs. It played 4-quadrant clean kids got the I can do it myself fantasy. Parents got a knowing wink at suburban chaos, and under the slapstick was the simplest holiday code, get everyone back under one roof. Nearly $500 million worldwide and a new American ritual are the evidence proving the success of the biggest franchise of all time. We don't just watch Home Alone, we replay it like a carol. And overnight. Macaulay Culkin stopped being a child actor and became a holiday tradition, setting up a rise so fast that the fall was always going to be headline news. But how did it all go so wrong, and what makes even one of the brightest stars fall at the peak of his career? Macaulay Culkin's childhood is the days that shared a worn, narrow New York apartment with 7 siblings. Their flat was a place for negotiation and no privacy. That cramped reality sat in sharp contrast to the screen fantasy that would define him. A boy ruling an empty mansion in Home Alone. On film, he had freedom and square footage. Off camera, he had neither. At the center of the household orbit was Kit Culkin, a father with a broken Broadway dream. Once a bit player whose stage ambitions ended after a minor mishap. He redirected that unfinished script onto his children. Auditions weren't opportunities. They were assignments, one by one. 7 kids cycled through the casting rooms. Macaulay, the 4th, learned the family grammar early: show up, smile, hit your mark. He started acting at 4 tiny roles, church basements, off-Broadway stages, steady repetitions that taught him timing and presence. The spark became visible in front of a movie audience with Uncle Buck, 1989.
Hey, how you doing?
Who are you?
I'm your Uncle Buck.
Do I have an uncle?
Next to John Candy, his deadpan landed. The beat stretched just long enough, and the bit turned into a breakout. The film hauled in roughly $67 million, and Hollywood took note the kid could carry a frame and a punchline. And then Home Alone turned suspicion into certainty. The premise was simple. His performance made it feel inevitable. Overnight. He became the industry's newest printing press sequels, tie-ins, licensing, talk shows. A calendar that never seemed to exhale, to studios. He was a bankable lead, to audiences. A seasonal tradition, to his father. A project. Control closed in. Kit managed the script such that only he could decide which roles or shows have the appearance of Macaulay. In that equation. Macaulay Culkin wasn't a son so much as the biggest project. The warmth the movie's promised did not travel home. He would later state it bluntly, his father hated him, and so did him. Jealousy sharpened the edges, discipline crossed lines wounds that were physical, and others that took longer to name. From the outside, the rise seemed clean, a talented kid, a perfect part, a cultural phenomenon, from his side of the lens. It was a climb powered by pressure, managed like a business, and paid for with the one thing fame can't refund an ordinary childhood. First, the proof arrived on a John Hughes set. After Uncle Buck showed that Macaulay Culkin could steal a scene from John Candy, Hughes began writing to his strengths the long stare, the dry line. The beat held a second longer than the audience expects. Consequently, the experiment became Home Alone, a simple premise that required one steady center of gravity. Macaulay was that center. Then, opening weekend turned promise into inevitability. Because word of mouth snowballed through the holiday corridor. Parents trusted the ticket, kids demanded the rewatch, and December effectively belonged to him. As a result, the face on the poster became more than casting. It became a guarantee. Studios lined up, retailers followed, and a Christmas comedy expanded into an ecosystem VHS marathons. Toys on end caps, lunchboxes in school cafeterias, plus magazine covers and late-night sofas. Meanwhile, the industry recalibrated. Paydays reset the ceiling for child talent. My Girl demonstrated tenderness without slapstick. Home Alone 2 affirmed the first hit wasn't a fluke. Therefore, his public brand tightened resourceful, warm, unflappable. At 11. He hosted SNL soon after. He moved through press lines with the poise of someone twice his age. Look, pause, land the moment. However, success widened the schedule as it narrowed the choices. With every green light came more flights, more sets, more interviews, each reinforcing the same image of the kid who could do it all. On screen, he ran the house. Off screen, he reported to one. Hence, decisions increasingly aligned with what the machine needed: next sequel dates, promo tours, and the next four-quadrant bet. Notably, the rise felt frictionless from the audience's seat precisely because the craft was invisible. Years of church basement blocking and cramped stage timing now powered global gags and quiet beats alike. In short, the discipline learned in small rooms scaled cleanly to giant screens. By the end of the early 90s, he wasn't merely a star, he was seasonal infrastructure. Families planned viewings around him, studios planned quarters around him, networks planned schedules around him. Consequently, the numbers climbed, and with them, the stakes. The business saw a miracle product, his household saw its biggest project, and therein lay the fault line. Because the same momentum that made him inevitable on screen made him indispensable at home. Every success tightened the grip around the next decision: what to shoot, when to sleep, who would decide. Thus, the breakthrough wasn't just a launch, it was a lock. What looked like destiny from the outside was inside. Design Hughes' blueprint, Hollywood's marketing, and a child actor's rare command of silence now fused to a machinery that would be far harder to step away from than it was to enter. At the apex, Macaulay Culkin wasn't just a star, he was the season. The Hands on Cheeks poster became the unofficial logo of December. A Golden Globe nomination arrived before Algebra. Home Alone rewrote box office math, its sequel locked the franchise, and TV reruns turned holidays into annual Culkin marathons. He hosted SNL at 11. Paydays reset the market for every kid actor who followed. Quotes from a movie within the movie Merry Christmas, "You filthy animal" escaped the screen and marched onto t-shirts, party banners, and office Slack threads. Culturally, he was a one-boy wavelength. The spiky blonde cut, the oversized knit, the mischievous squint instantly cosplayable, infinitely memeable. John Williams' Somewhere in My Memory scored malls and living rooms alike, while the McAllister house became a real-world pilgrimage site each winter. Kids practiced booby trap engineering with marbles and string, parents bought talk boys, retailers built end caps around his grin. VHS sales spiked, then DVD, then streams proof that some faces are platform proof. Globally, the brand traveled clean, dubbed into dozens of languages. Kevin McAllister's eye roll spoke fluent childhood everywhere, in a decade that sold independence as identity. Culkin stood for kid-powered agency: cleverness beats chaos, preparation beats panic. A pajama-clad underdog outwits every adult in the room. For America, he was a sunny export suburban architecture, big-hearted slapstick, and a faith that the family finds its way home by the third act. And the aura felt untouchable. Studio calendars orbited his release dates. Magazine covers arrived like clockwork. Late-night couches treated him like a peer, not a prodigy. He wasn't merely headlining hits, he was underwriting quarters. Fans didn't just watch him, they scheduled traditions around him. The franchise, the merch, the memes, the music, it all pointed one way. Toward a single conclusion the industry loves most: inevitability. In that glow, the distance between boy and myth vanished. He didn't chase the spotlight obeyed him. For a time. Macaulay Culkin didn't just dominate the box office. He monopolized December and felt, to everyone watching, like he couldn't be touched. But the shift came quietly at first. He was still the holiday constant on screen, yet off-screen. The stories began to tilt, as his parents' marriage fractured and legal filings spilled into daylight. He removed both names from his trust to access his own earnings. In court, it was procedure; in headlines, it read like rebellion. Meanwhile, his friendship with the king of pop, born of shared child stardom and strict fathers, was steadily recast by rumor. When televised accusations arrived, he took the stand and stated, under oath, that nothing improper had happened. Nevertheless, the noise didn't die, because whispers thrive where facts go quiet. Tabloids magnified every odd photo and clipped quote, and social media turned speculation into certainty. Consequently, brands kept the December reruns, but also kept their distance. The public conversation split into camps: defenders who trusted his clarity and critics who preferred insinuation, so even a smile began to carry subtext. Then grief hit for real. A sister's sudden death changed the temperature of every room. Later, the end of a 7-year relationship removed one of the few constants left. As a result, projects slowed and appearances thinned. The machine that once scheduled his life by the hour learned to run without him. Notably, this wasn't a single explosion. Rather, it was a domino-line family rupture. Legal housekeeping reframed as defiance. A polarizing friendship pushed through a courtroom lens, a funeral, a breakup, each nudge shifting the narrative from fairy tale to post-mortem. By degrees. The boy who sold independence looked like an adult choosing distance. The glow still played every winter. Yet it felt colder and audiences sensed it. That small tug in the gut that says something's off. The life of Macaulay Culkin changed when he met Brenda Song, a former Disney star the world once knew as London Tipton on a film set far from the spotlight. Both had grown up under the same kind of scrutiny, and maybe that's why there was a true sympathy between them. A quiet understanding turned into a partnership built on ordinary things: coffee, laughter, and the rare gift of calm. When their first child was born, they named him Dakota after the sister he lost years earlier. It was less a tribute than a promise that grief could become continuity. A second son followed, and with him came something Culkin had never really known: a home that wasn't a set, a family that wasn't a script. By the time he stood on Hollywood Boulevard to receive his star, the circle had closed. He thanked the woman beside him, the two small hands holding his, and the life that had finally become his own. Then he smiled, half nostalgia, half victory, and said, "Merry Christmas, you filthy animals." It was the same line that made him famous, but now it sounded different. The boy who once defended an empty house had grown into a man who finally found one.